Hello everybody, my name's Katrina McKelvey and I'm a children's author of 5 picture books and I live in Newcastle in New South Wales. And with me today I have...
Hello everyone, I'm Kirrili Lonergan. I'm a picture book illustrator and art therapist, and I also live in Newcastle.
And so today we've come together to have a chat to you about a couple of picture books we've made together, and they are perfectly suited to Father's Day, which is this weekend on Sunday. And we just wanted to have a bit of a chat. Now that lots of things are online, we haven't actually had a bit of a digital conversation together, so we thought we'd get together and talk to you about our 2 books. So the first one is this one, Dandelions. And this is a beautiful story that we released together in 2015. And it's about a father and a daughter. And Dad mows all the dandelion flowers out of the lawn. And his daughter was waiting for them to grow a little bit longer so they could turn into puffballs. And unfortunately, he's broken her heart and he didn't realise. And so it's about them mending their relationship and going on a beautiful journey together. And along the way, they learn about the life cycle of a dandelion plant. And Kirrili, what's the other book that we're going to share today?
So the other book is Up to Something. So this is another book that we've done together, and we released this in 2019. And it's a story about a father and a son, little Billy. And Billy sort of teaches Dad a lesson on the way through the book about how talented he actually is. And it uses a lot of creativity and imagination and recycling throughout the story as well. So it's a nice little book with a bit of collage and a bit of paint. Yeah.
And we didn't plan to have both our picture books with a father as a role model, actually. So it's worked out really nicely for us to get together today and bring you 2 beautiful books that have fathers in them and, and a child, actually. And one has a son and one has the daughter. All right, Kirrili, we've got some questions that we'd like to ask each other just to share a little bit more information about the story and illustration process and some of the surprises that we've hidden inside these books. So where do we want to start? Did you want to start?
Do you want me to ask you some?
Yeah, all right.
So I might start with Dandelions.
Yep.
So what sort of things were you hoping that children would take home from Dandelions, like what they would get out of it from reading Dandelions?
Well, that's a good question, because the themes in the book that came out after I wrote it weren't the themes that I was thinking about as I was writing it. So my main aim was to sort of educate children in the life cycle of a dandelion, and how a little girl was going to problem solve the fact that Dad has destroyed them. And so I sort of role reversed the apology there. So I talk to kids often in schools about how children often have to apologise to other children or to adults. But in this situation, we've got a parent who has to actually apologise to a child. And the kids love hearing about that, because they often say to me in school visits, yeah, we want adults to apologise to us. They're not always perfect. So this story is an excellent example of that. So, so I find that children connect really well with this story in the role reversal of the apology, but also within the journey of Dad and his daughter, we do learn very gently about the life cycle of the dandelion, and how blowing a dandelion isn't really about magic, actually. We're actually spreading dandelion seeds and spreading weeds everywhere. And as you've heard me say many times to kids, don't tell anybody dandelions are weeds. They're not. They're beautiful plants. So
I think that's what is beautiful about Katrina, is that it does actually, I think it sort of does bring out that beautiful relationship, because they use their imagination to think about where this dandelion is going, but at the same time it's educating them on the actual dandelion itself. So it sort of incorporates both of that.
Yes. Yeah, and it does it very subtly. And there is a beautiful double spread at the end, Kirrili, that you did, that actually does visually display the dandelion plant cycle. But that doesn't come into it until long after Dad and the daughter goes on that beautiful creative journey together, an imaginative journey together.
And I actually did that spread at the end to do exactly that, and that was to incorporate. So I've sort of done whatever the dandelion, the life cycle of the dandelion is down here along the bottom, And then the actions of the father and the daughter are mimicked as well. So they fall to the ground, they get up, they blossom, they look around, and they bloom again. So, and then it comes back around in a cycle.
The
cycle. So it sort
cycle.
of sums up both of those things that we were just talking about. So it's a relationship in the life cycle.
Yeah,
so,
and that's what I love about illustrators, Kirrili, and you've done it so well in this book, that the illustrations have another story inside them that isn't in the text, and that's what makes beautiful picture books, that the illustrations don't just reflect what the text is saying. They have their own story of their own, and that's a beautiful example of the body language, watching the body language of dad and his daughter and their relationship together. And you've done it all the way through the book,
which mimics something natural and mimics nature in the story.
Well, while we're here, then, can you talk about then some of your illustration techniques in Dandelions and how you use those to reflect the storyline? And what I mean by that is the sunflower page in particular. So you're talking about let me just hold it up. So
in this page, I suppose when we illustrate, we're illustrating to tell a story and not to tell something that's still in motion. So here we've got twisting in the wind. So obviously the sunflowers have been painted in a way that they're blowing in the wind. What sort of day is it? I often talk to the children when we show this book at schools. What sort of day is that? Like, is it a wet, drizzly day, or is it a beautiful sunny day? And they all say it's a beautiful sunny day, and it's a gentle wind, and the little butterflies in there. And you'll notice that's another thing I've done with the illustrations in this book, is I've put the little butterfly in, because there's a lot of pages in this book where the actual story is no longer the characters. It's all about their imagination and how the dandelion blows through all the different parts of the town. So what I've done is hidden a little butterfly in that actually sort of takes over as their imagination, so the children can still follow the storyline and the butterfly going through, but we've lost the characters because they're now laying down on the ground imagining. So so that was sort of woven through.
The first half of Sorry, I'm just saying, here they are here. They blow the dandelion, just for people who don't know the story, they blow the dandelion, off they go, up in the air.
Yep.
Then this is the
From
point
there
of the
on, once it blows, it then becomes, they're laying down and they imagine where the dandelion's going to go. So that's when the butterfly sort of comes in.
Yeah.
And any other technique. Oh, sorry.
No, keep.
It was really it was really just trying to use the pastel palette and make it as sort of gentle and flowy and pretty as possible, because that was the sort of theme of the story.
Yeah, the story is a very gentle, whimsical story. And even the text on the page, when the book designer has designed it, they've made the text even move and look like that the gentle breeze that the dandelion seeds are floating on in the second half of the story is also reflected, one, in the way that Kirrili's drawn some of the features in the illustration, such as the sunflowers, and also the text is doing the same thing. So it's really complicated, actually, illustrating, showing movement, because there's lots of movement in this story, and also showing mood, because it's a very gentle story and it's a very delicate story too. Not only is a dandelion delicate, but the relationship between a dad and daughter can be delicate as well.
So I did sort of try to concentrate a lot on facial expression and body language and how they play with each other. And actually I've got some, when I first started drawing it, I drew just lots and lots of pictures of the daddy and the daughter, just in all different poses, just trying to sort of build up that loving relationship. And look, not all of them ended up in the book in the end, but it was just to sort of try and develop lots of ways where the characters can come together and show that loving sort of father-daughter relationship as well.
Yeah, and I do believe that you used, this is for lots of emerging illustrators, you use real people to pose for you, and you took lots of photos and you made lots of reference photos, so that when you were drawing the father and the daughter in different positions, that you had those references to those real poses.
I do a lot of life drawing, so I sort of get most of the positions right, but with this particular book, there was a few
particular poses that had to be done in a particular way. So yeah, I got my husband and my daughter out there posing in the backyard to try and get the arms and the legs right and everything looking right. Yeah.
Oh, I've heard lots of illustrators say they have to pull family members in and do all of that. All right, so that's sort of enough sort of Dandelions. So that's a beautiful book. If you're looking for a book on the weekend about a relationship between a father and a daughter, and when this book came out a few years ago, I did get a lot of feedback saying that there weren't a lot of picture books on the market that did this combination, dad with a daughter. And it's funny too, you hear us talking about a daughter and we haven't given her a name. That's because this story was written in first person, and so the story is being told through the eyes of the little girl, and so we actually don't know her name. So that's why we're not using her name for anybody who needs to ask. So Kirrili, we're just looking up. Next question. The design of the characters, I think that's important before we leave Dandelions and talk about Up to Something, Kirrili.
Yep.
What made you have Dad look the way he looked and the little girl look the way she looked? What did you do there? What influenced you to design those characters in the way that they are? Because this is all done in one day. This is one day, so they don't have to change outfits or anything.
Yeah. So, well, the little girl, actually, it was just coincidence that the little girl was actually, there was a little girl that actually was posing in front of me at a school assembly one day that I asked the mother if I could take some photos of her because she was so cute and she had this beautiful little dress on. And so I'd actually been playing with this little girl when I got the contract for this book. And so she actually became the little girl in the story. So her character was already sort of built a bit for me, and I just built on that little girl. She was the right age and the right look for what I wanted, so that was perfect. And then I just had to create a dad, and I mean, I just play and sketch until I come up with something, and I do this with all my books. I just play and sketch. I'll show you a few actually, some of the little dads that I started to draw. And you just sort of start and look and think, do they look old enough? Does he look like he could be his dad? And it's really just a character. One character always just grabs me, and I sort of run with it in the end. These were these weren't Billy actually. These were Up to Something. But this is just an example of what I do. I did the same with Dandelions, where you just I sketch until I get the dads right, until I get that look, and then once I get the dad right, then I start sketching him in all different emotions and moods and sizes and close-ups and not so close up, and just get used to him. So
with Up to Something, let's move on to Up to Something. So even the character design with these two, we really wanted to make sure, because we were connected as a team in both of these books, that this was not the same dad in Up to Something as the dad in Dandelion. So how did you make sure that they were absolutely definitely different from one another? Wasn't the same dad?
Well, they were just different in appearance to start with. They were just totally different types of dads to me, with the storyline that I was given. The dads were totally different. I was after a bit more of a farm sort of boy when it came to Up to Something. And it was a little bit more important to get the mix of what Billy looks like and the dad looks like. Because it's one thing to do one character and you've got to get the other character, but you've got to get those characters to blend and look all right. Yeah.
And can I ask you to talk about, because I love this, and if it's not pointed out, it could be missed. So in Up to Something, we've got Billy and Dad dressed like this at the beginning of the story.
Yes.
But then once, and they're at the hardware shop together, they're in that scene, buying bits and pieces to build something. They do know by this stage what they're building. But then when they get into the workshop together at home, Billy has changed his clothes. Did you want to talk a little bit about what you did there?
Yeah. So I've changed Billy's clothes. This one was a little bit more difficult, this book, because I had to stay out and really make sure that everything was in the right order and that things had been, like the outfits had changed, and not just that, but as they were building, because in this book they're building a billy cart out of recycled items in the shed, that Billy was sneaking around behind his dad's back building the billy cart. I had to make sure that those buildings were missing in the workshop because he'd used them in the billy cart. So it was just a process of making sure that everything was sort of in order. But his clothing his clothing. So he was off at the shops, and I've had him in the shorts and t-shirt, and then he changed into his little overalls because he wanted to look like Dad, because his whole personality is that he wanted to be grown up like Dad, and that's the theme of the book. So he had his little and I think I put a little wooden spoon in his pocket to mimic a ruler. Actually, it's a ruler. Later on, I think there's a wooden spoon tucked down the back of him.
There's a ruler.
There's a wooden spoon.
Here it is.
Yeah, the ruler. Yeah. And so just using little makeshift sort of items from around to act like he's a grown up. And then at the very back of the book, I use that t-shirt again. So the t-shirt actually becomes a flag on the billy cart. So he uses that to recycle. So he takes his shirt off and uses it to recycle for the billy cart.
Very clever. That's the stuff that helps have that visual literacy side inside picture books, isn't it? It's there. It's not in the text, and you wouldn't want it in the text. We don't talk about clothing in the text, so we let the illustrations show all of that. And just the change in the clothing, I just love the fact that he wanted to be so much like Dad. Not only in the fact that Dad's building something. So what happened in the story?
I was going to say, do you want to talk about the themes? About the themes of the story, so people know.
So Dad's got a man shed out the back, and Billy's never been in it before. And so the story starts with Dad inviting Billy for the very first time to go into this man shed. He's heard all the sounds, the banging, the drilling. He's got an idea of what's going on in there. He wants to be a part of it, and Dad finally lets him in. So they go down to the hardware shop and they get the bits and pieces, and they've worked out that they're going to build a billy cart and go into the local billy cart race. And Billy is so excited. But then as soon as they get home, Dad lets Billy help him get all the tools together ready to go. But then when it comes to the building side of it, Dad goes, no, you can't help, Billy. You can watch and pass me the tools because you might hurt yourself. And Billy is devastated. So he's basically now in charge of observing instead of actually being hands-on. And I'm sure when I do this story in schools, a lot of children can relate to this, that parents are very overprotective, but the kids just, can do so much more than their parents think they can because the parents are being overprotective, which is
and we talked about that
before.
We've talked about this before too, where you can relate to that, the character of Dad, not that you don't trust them, but that fear of them not hurting themselves. So you sort of hold back and you don't let them have that. Yeah,
it's a prevention.
Sort of grown up.
Yeah, it's all prevention and protectiveness and all that sort of stuff. So Billy goes, that's fine. I'll show him. And so he goes and finds a different part of the shed and copies everything Dad does and builds his own billy cart. But the difference in the two, and that's the theme that we bring through the story, is Dad is using all the materials he bought from the hardware shop at the beginning of the story. But Billy's not. He can't get in the car and go and get a set himself. So he's using recycled materials in and around the shed and the yard. And I know, Kirrili, what you've done is very clever. Since the beginning of the story, all these things that Billy uses to build his cart have been hidden in the background of the illustrations the whole way through. And so we've got bringing this beautiful theme of recycling into the story, yet the both of them are building exactly the same thing. And there is a double spread. I don't want to show it because I want people to go buy the book, where you compare the two carts, Dad's cart and Billy's cart. And I love working with the kids, showing them this page and what is the difference between the two carts and which one will win in the race and which one may not and why not, and what are they going to do next now that Billy's proved to Dad that he can build and he can use tools. He just needs a little bit more guidance. And if they work together, which is another thing, working together. There's a line in the book I use several times. Imagine what we could do if we could do it together. Yeah. And so
we could probably can I show them the last page where they do work together?
Yeah, you can.
So at the end of the book, they do decide to work together and they make their own billy cart. So that's a combination of Dad's cart and Billy's cart made out of recyclables and normal materials as well. So they work together, which is another theme in the book.
Yeah. And it's such a lovely, warm ending. And it really just shows their beautiful relationship, because Billy is not a child that's being defiant and going against Dad. He's just frustrated and does go gently in doing what Dad hasn't asked him to do, but it's done in such a gentle way. Billy's such a beautiful little boy. He's just a bit frustrated that he can't really show his true colours. And then once Dad realises, all right, I've been a little bit overprotective, they do work together and have this beautiful outcome at the end of the story. I just love the ending of this story. Love it. Yeah. So Kirrili, we talked about themes a little bit. Did you want to talk about, you tried a little bit of a different illustration technique with up to something that you didn't do in Dandelions, and that was the use of collage. Did you want to talk about how you used collage in the story and why you did that?
Yeah, look, I think initially the whole, so when I got the manuscript for this book, I thought to myself, okay, well, what does this mean to me? And I reflected back on my childhood days of what billy carts meant to me and stuff, and a lot of my childhood memories were billy carts with my grandfather, and he used to make us billy carts just like we did in this book. And so I incorporated a lot of my grandfather's workshop and things into the book as well, and I thought recycling a few old things might be a nice way to be able to just put that whole theme of imagination and creativity back into the book for the children to see as well. The book is sort of all about creating things, from recycling things from anything that you can see around you, so it inspires them to be creative and build and think outside the square as to how this billy cart's going to really work and things. So anyway, yeah, I started using some collage. So I used some old musical sheets and some old newspapers, and there's a bit of it there, you can see there in that go-kart. I've just used a bit of collage newspaper and I've painted over the top of it as well, and some of them, I've just used a bit of charcoal over the top as well. So all the timber I just turned into the musical sheets, and the newspaper was used for all the timber work throughout the book.
And even you got newspaper there doing the barn
anywhere where there's
doors.
timber. Yeah. So I was just incorporating a little bit of recycling, which was what the whole book was about. So.
And you know what, when I talk to kids about that, they pick that up really, really quickly. They say, I saw newspaper and I saw music notes, music paper. And and as soon as I say to them, why did you think Kirrili did that? They make the connection straight away. So I think it's absolutely beautiful that you've done that. It's
a nice little segue for kids too, to do a little activity with it after they do the book as well. Make themselves, give them some old newspaper or some old magazines or something, get them to cut it out and build something out of it and make something out of it and collage something. It's a nice way to tie sort of artwork into it. And
And you know what I absolutely love? Not long after the book came out, we learnt that there's a local billy cart derby in Gresford, which is not far from where we live. And so we got in contact with them. We asked them if we could come up and do some story times with the kids at the billy cart derby. And so we actually got to see real billy cart races and real handmade billy carts. And it was just the best day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. We had a great day.
So much fun. And I love showing those photos with the kids of real live billy carts. And I also show them a photo from Melbourne in about 1950 of the billy carts back then, and then the design of the billy carts today. And we talk about the difference in how it's evolved over time with the design, yet they're the same.
Yeah.
So we talk about, what makes a billy cart and what makes a billy cart go, what makes a billy cart stop, and all those types of things. And we have lots of fun discussing.
Actually, somewhere today in my little rubble here, I've actually found a billy cart. Here it is. There's a little billy cart advertised at Super Cheap Auto to build your own for Father's Day.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Yeah, I thought that was very, very timely. And so that's a nice little project too. Get all those dads out there building billy carts again with their children for Father's Day.
Yes, so if you're not a father like Billy's dad, and you just got stuff in the shed ready to go, you could just go and cheat and go to where was it again? Super Cheap Auto.
Yeah, Super Cheap Auto. Yeah.
And get the kit ready to go after you buy our book, of course, isn't that right? And read it, and then go. So Kirrili, if people are interested in buying either of our books, can you give some examples of how they can get their hands on a copy?
Well, they're available at all bookstores. Locally here we have them at Maclean's, Harry Hartog's, and they can buy them directly through EK Books, who publish our books, or through our websites.
Yep. And also too, if you're locked down in Melbourne, your local bookseller may do online ordering. You may be able to ring up and do an online order. If you can't have the books, they can order them through EK.
Dymocks stock them.
Yep. So you can get them. You can order. I use really good online bookstores as well. But with COVID and lockdown, we're really encouraging people to use booksellers and support local businesses. But otherwise, they're all available. And yes, any problems, contact us at I'll put our websites at the end of this video, and they can contact us directly through our website, and we can help you out there as well if you have trouble. All right, Kirrili. Well, happy Father's Day to everybody.
Thank you.
In your family.
Yes, happy Father's Day all.
Yes, and thank you for our little chat today. And any questions, jump on our websites or go and have a look at our publisher's website, ekbooks.org. There's information there, teaching notes there, links to teachers' notes, trailers. We both have trailers for both books as well if you'd like to share trailers. So lots of things out there to support both those books. Thank you, Kirrili, for the chat today. And we will talk very, very soon.